Hello my friends, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review. So guys, I haven't spoken about this couple, I think since the very start of the season because not that much has really happened with these two guys. But guys, this week something happened which I think was, well, at least comment worthy. And so today I'm going to talk about Jovi and Yara, and I think today we're standing at the precipice of Yara's true intentions. But this week we also bore witness to the fact that, well, it doesn't seem as if Jovi's changed at all. But before I begin, please don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that good stuff. And also a massive thank you to everyone who's subscribed to my channel and supports the channel. I genuinely appreciate it. And finally, don't forget to smash the like button if you enjoyed the video. Right, so without further ado, I give you Jovi and Yara. And so last week the couple arrived in Prague, and this was apparently just for a holiday. And so Yara's mum, whom Yara hasn't seen for, I think, 2.5 years since she moved to the US, is currently living in Prague. The couple decided not to go to Ukraine, obviously, because there's a war there at the moment. But guys, the second Yara got her green card, she bought tickets and she was straight on that plane. And her husband Jovi, otherwise known as Plan B, tagged along for the ride. Now this family trip to Prague was supposed to be just for a holiday, but last week Jovi discovered that Yara has, well, more than just plans to move there on a permanent basis. Jovi is as shocked as all hell, and I know he's thinking to himself, how did we get here? Jovi, let me break it down for you. And so I just want to rewind a little bit. We did see this coming. There were some clues. However, I do have to say, I'm surprised at how far along Yara is with her planning of this big move, this life change. So Yara hasn't seen her mum for 2.5 years since she moved to the US, and she was talking to Jovi's mum, Gwen, and she said as soon as I get my green card through, I'm just going to go straight to Europe. And Gwen said, aren't you going to at least wait for Jovi so he can accompany you? And she said, well, why should I? I just want to go. And so we all knew how desperately she wanted to get back to Europe. But in that same conversation, she also said to Gwen, I'm thinking about maybe I'll live there. I don't know if I want to live in Europe or if I want to live in America now. I can live either. And when Gwen was asking her about, I don't know, the particulars of the green card, she more or less said, all I have to do is come back to America. I think it was once every 6 months or once every year. And she maintains then her green card for 10 years. And when she was saying this, I thought, wow. Everybody and their mother was saying, Yara just wants to live in America. That's all she wants. Maybe we all got it wrong. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she wanted to have the opportunity to make the American coin. And maybe she does prefer it in Europe. But one thing's for sure, Jovi was completely left out in the planning of this little move. And then Gwen said, I thought you were happy here in America. And Yara said, well, I am. But there's no one to help me with Myla. I don't see you very often. And obviously Jovi's working away for 4 to 6 weeks at a time. If I could live in Europe, my mum could help me, and I think I'd be happier. So guys, this was quite ominous. And Gwen was both shocked and taken aback, but yeah, that was clue number 1. And the second clue was rather more subtle. This was just last week when the couple first arrived into the Czech Republic, and Yara said to her mum she wanted to discover the city, to have a walk round Prague. And Jovi said, well, can I come or do you want me to come? And she was like, no, I just want to be on my own with my mum. Of course you do, Yara. Of course you do, because it's time to plot without Jovi. You've just arrived in a brand new city. Surely Jovi might want to explore it with you as well. Instead, Jovi gets to sit alone, playing on a 1990s Lenovo ThinkPad and sitting in a retina-burning bright blue room in the middle of Prague on his own. Oh, what fun. So as Yara and her mum stroll around Prague, guys, I've forgotten how beautiful Prague is. It's years since I've been there, but it really is gorgeous. Her mum said, would you ever consider living here? And Yara said, well, I'm actually really torn. I do love my life in America, but now I'm in Europe, I'm kind of thinking I'd really like it. And her mum said, I'd see you more often, I could see my granddaughter more often, and I could make up for lost time with Myla. And then Yara's mum talks to production, and she said, I could babysit Myla, whilst Yara's devoting her time to her hobbies, her friends, and her work, and her husband. What? Her husband? Surely he'll be in the USA. I think it's highly likely that Yara's mum wants her to live there, and I don't think she really cares if Jovi's in with the package or not. But one thing's for sure, I highly doubt it's the first time Yara and her mum have talked about them living together in Europe. And before I know it, that's certified because Yara lets production know that her mum's been sending her apartments from Prague for months. And Yara now wants to go and see some of these apartments. And so how quickly she's agreed to doing this is really, to me, clue number 2. And so the next time we see this couple, they're back at the hotel room. And Jovi's lying unconscious in bed. For more than likely, he had a few too many last night. If he didn't, it will be the very first time he didn't. And so Yara's sitting there with Mila, and they're having breakfast. Jovi gets up and looks at his breakfast, 3 eggs and a few bacon shavings. Okay then. And he grabs a bottle of champagne, pours a glass and retires back to bed. Of course, Yara says, "Oh my God, Jovi, champagne?" No, Yara, he's not bothered. He's just trying to blot out the hell of being in close proximity to his mother-in-law. No, I'm only joking. Please have mercy on me, mothers-in-law, for I know not what I say. So anyway, Yara dropped the bomb on Jovi that she wants to look at apartments here. And Jovi flipped his lid. He said, "We've never talked about this. What are you going on about?" And she said, "Well, my mum sent me some details and I just want to go and check them out." And so Jovi said to production, "Well, I think that her mum's pressurising her. This isn't anything we've spoken about. We never said we were coming house hunting. This is dumb." But you see, guys, Jovi thinks somehow he has the upper hand because he said to Yara, "Well, how are you going to afford it?" And Yara said, "With the money that I have from my business." And guys, she's got some sort of online shop, you know, the ones where people buy cheap clothes from Alibaba, double the cost, and then sell them in America. So apparently she's curated quite a nice little online boutique. And yeah, it must be doing rather well. And so Jovi doesn't think that she has the money. But bad luck, Jovi, it looks like she does. It looks like this decision isn't all in your hands. So Jovi very reluctantly decides to accompany Yara and her mum to have this viewing on the apartment. In the car on the way, Yara's mum expresses a wish to have her own bedroom in this apartment, so she can live with the couple. Oh dear, things are getting worse. And Jovi said, "So, you need a 3-bedroom apartment then?" "Not necessarily, Jovi. The ladies are planning to create some space for you underneath the patio." Oh dear. But Jovi's absolutely seething because he thinks they're making plans behind his back, which, in fact, they are. And Yara lets Jovi know she's planning to spend $150,000 on the apartment, and then she explains that she wants to help her friends and family who are escaping the war in Ukraine. She wants a base for them all to be able to live. And whilst I think to some extent that's partially true, I think also she wants to live there herself. Let's face facts. If it was just for friends and family to move to, she would have mentioned it to Jovi before, and she would have framed it within those parameters in the first instance. But very unfortunately, when they arrive to the apartment, it needs an awful lot of work doing, and the bathroom and the kitchen leave a lot to be desired. There's a bit to be spent on this apartment. They look in the living room, and they ask where the bedroom is. Oh, it's here as well, the living room, and this is basically a studio. They ascertain that it's $165,000, and Jovi starts laughing and said, "You can't afford anything." Yara then asks the estate agent how much would it be for a 2 or 3 bedroom, and they discover it's going to be about $300,000. And I can't help but think I'm quite sure you could find something for 150 or 200,000 in Prague. So I do what I do best. Let me have a little search. And a very quick and perfunctory search lets me know that she could purchase something for around $220,000 in central Prague. And that would be a nice, decently sized, ready-to-go 3-bed. I checked in central Prague, and I'm sure if she was prepared to go a little bit further out, it would get even cheaper. If in a couple of years she's managed to save 150,000, she's more than likely about, 6 months to a year away from having the 220 that she needs to buy. Oh dear, Jovi. Oh dear, oh dear. And so, unsurprisingly, the apartment was a damp squib, and Jovi was cock-a-hoop. He said, "Are we all agreed? This is a terrible idea." Jovi, they've looked at one apartment. I'm sure in the whole of the city of Prague, there are more apartments to view. Now, guys, ordinarily, I would be on Jovi's side with this whole scenario. He knew nothing about it, and he's been pretty much blindsided. But what happened next made me think, actually, Yara and her mum have a point. Jovi is not to be trusted. Yara's mum said to production, "I want Yara to have something of her own for herself, because one minute you're married, and the next minute you can be separated. You never know what might happen." And this whole statement comes to play in the very next scene. And so when they get back to the hotel, Jovi said, "I'm going for a drink." and he goes down to the bar and decides to call his mum, Gwen. He tells her what's happened about the apartment, and she said, "Oh my God, Jovi, what happens if she wants to go and live there? What happens if she doesn't want to come home to the US? This is not what married couples should do. She should have told you she was looking for an apartment before you got there." And with this, I have to agree. It's a very, very big purchase to spring upon somebody. I think she would have told Jovi before she bought it. But as Jovi did point out, their money as a married couple is both partners' money. Just because you made it, Yara, doesn't mean all of it is yours. And so Jovi goes back to the hotel room, and he's sulking. Yara said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "I'm still really pissed that you did this whole thing behind my back." And she said, "No, I was just going to look. I would have told you." And he said, "But why? We have a life in the US. And she said, "Well, I'm a mother. I'm from Ukraine. I have to protect myself and to protect my daughter. Who knows what you might do? We might split up and you might try and take all the money for yourself." And then Jovi said, "You don't understand. When you get married and then get divorced, you get 50-50. In essence, you do. But it depends how you set your business up. If you're an employee, it's very difficult to get out of, paying child support and so on. However, if you're self-employed, which I've got a strong suspicion that Jovi would be, you can make your company accounts say anything you want." Guys, I know, I've done it. And so in essence, he could give her the bare minimum to live on. But Jovi maintained that can't happen in America. You'll always be okay. The law protects you. Jovi, I'm here to tell you, no it doesn't. There's a million women, and probably lots of men as well, who haven't been protected by the law financially. Not everything works out as it should. But I decided to have a quick look at what the alimony rules in Louisiana are. And it says here, judges will consider if the spouse requesting support is free from fault. Judges will not award a spouse alimony if he or she caused the divorce. If you seek spousal support, your spouse may claim that you are not entitled to support because your actions caused the divorce, i.e., it's not necessarily 50-50. And then Jovi said, "Well, have I ever given you any reason not to trust me?" And she said, "Yes, Jovi, you're always at the strip club." Oh, good Lord. Guys, when I heard this is why I wanted to make the video. When I heard this, I thought, wow, Jovi, you make a rod for your own back. And Yara said it better than I ever could. Maybe one day you'll be at the strip club and you'll run off with a stripper to the Bahamas and take all my money. That's entirely true. Jovi, you're still living the life of a single man. Now, guys, I've got to say, I'm completely bored and tired of listening to men say, "Oh, the strip club, it's no big deal. It's letting off steam." You're paying to see somebody else's private parts. You're paying for a sexual thrill with someone who isn't your wife or your partner. And that's actually, at the very least, you're in a sexually charged environment where anything could happen. And so the bottom line is, if you're going to strip clubs, you give me every reason not to trust you. And let's look at it another way. Regardless of Jovi's intentions, do you think all strippers want to strip? What, forever? Of course they don't. As we know, men grow cold as girls grow old. And I'm willing to bet my bottom dollar that a good majority of the strippers there are looking for an out. They're looking for a semi-rich guy who's halfway good looking and not a massive lech to take them out of this life, to set up home with, and so on. By Jovi consistently being in a strip club, you are fodder. You're a sitting duck waiting for women to come and turn your head. So that's reason enough not to trust you. And so at the end of the segment, Jovi says to production, Yara's mum is influencing her, and he doesn't think it's fair. It's not Yara's idea, it's her mother's pressure. And that's where we end things for this week. So what does the Ebird make from all of this? Well, it's a very interesting turn of events. I'm genuinely not sure what to think about this. I think the first thing I have to say is Jovi always wants to believe that Yara is weak of mind and that other people can convince her of different things. Remember back to when she was with her friends, her girlfriends, and they were talking about boob jobs, and Jovi said she'd never want a boob job unless she spoke to her friends. They've influenced her. And now they're talking about this Prague apartment. It's her mother influencing her. Jovi, when will you get it into your thick head that Yara is one of the strongest people on this franchise? She knows what she wants and she goes for it. I don't believe anyone can convince Yara to do something she doesn't already want to do. But that said, I have a sneaking suspicion, a feeling that this was always in Yara's mind in the first instance. Get her green card, be able to go back and forth between Europe and America, and once she has papers in hand, do what she wants to do. She rolls her eyes so much at Jovi and is so disparaging of Jovi's way of life and just him as a person in general that I find it difficult to believe that she's actually in love with him. I think she wanted that green card. And also it could be that she wants to spend time in Europe when Jovi's away with work. As we know, he goes away for 4 to 6 weeks at a time, and Yara's left on her own. And she doesn't exactly love New Orleans, she calls it the swamp. But like Jovi said, they had an agreement to go and live in the USA, and now she's kind of changing that agreement. They both knew what they were signing up for, and it seems as if sands are shifting. Yara's always upset with Jovi, and I have to say, sometimes I think he doesn't mean to get drunk. Passing out after 5 shots of tequila is an unconscious decision for him, but Jovi never ever thinks things through. He knows that Yara doesn't like the whole strip bar thing, and he's still doing it. Although you could write the Declaration of Independence on his forehead, he still doesn't fill that space with a brain. But also the fact that Jovi hasn't changed, hasn't stopped seeing strippers, hasn't stopped drinking first thing in the morning, is forcing Yara to Europe and to her friends and family. As she points out, with the click of one finger, he could meet the stripper of his dreams and disappear off to the Bahamas, and she'll be left holding the baby. Not the proverbial baby, but the actual baby. And Jovi doesn't seem to think this is anything like an issue. I believe if Yara spends enough time in Eastern Europe, she'll want to stay there full time, she'll meet somebody else, she'll still have the green card to go back and forth to America as she wanted, and Jovi will be finished. It's a very weird scenario, but I can really see it happening. Guys, let me know what you think. Do you think this was her plan all along? Or do you think Jovi's reluctance to change or inability to change has forced her hand? Please let me know in comments down below. And you know I love to read your comments, so I'd love to know what you think. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Please don't forget to like and subscribe and all of that good stuff, and I'll see you very soon. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I bid you good day.